ॐ शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We saw yesterday in detail, what did we see? That the definition of Satyam and Mithya were ascertained in the first two lines of the Bhashya, which is doing the Vyakhyanam of Satyapada. And so we saw that Vyakhyana means which is doing an analysis or an unfoldment of the Satyapada. So we saw that, what did we see? That yadrupena yat nishchitam tadrupam na vyabhicharati tat satyam. We saw the definition of Satyam. And what is the definition of Satyam? Whatever you know in whichever form, that which never gives up that form. Satyam. That's how we get the word Abadhitam Sat. Abadhitam Sat means that which is non-negatable is called Sat. And then the other definition is unchanging. Trikalepi tishtati iti Sat. Same thing, na vyabhicharati, that is the one. So between, and then whatever vyabhicharati, whatever changes, whatever undergoes any kind of change, that is called anritam. And what is anritam here? Mithya. Anritam doesn't mean tucham, non-existent. Anritam here is mithya. Here, the Shruti does not make a difference between Vyavaharika Satta or Pratibhasika Satta. Meaning, the Shruti doesn't make any separation between the empirical world, which is a kind of a projection onto that Sat. We'll be seeing that soon. And then between that and one's own subjective projection, the Shruti doesn't make any difference at all. Both are mithya from the standpoint of the Shruti. Mithya again doesn't mean false, it means a dependent reality. So we saw that yesterday. And then we also saw that yad yad vyabhicharati, so whatever changes, it is called mithya iti uchyate, amritam iti uchyate, ataha vikaraha anritam. So vikara means any kind of change. That which is subject to change is anritam, is mithya. If that which is subject to change is mithya, then what are we talking about here? We are talking about something which is very interesting. Whatever changes is mithya, and that change here is called vikara. And so whatever is subject to vikara, it is anritam. And how does he get this? Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam mrittika iti eva satyam. Bhashyakara knows very well that before this we studied Chandogya 6th chapter. And he was prescient enough to have predicted that. And so therefore he makes us comfortable in quoting something that we have already studied and we already know. Oh yeah, this is sounding familiar. Everybody should be saying and should be thinking. And if you're not thinking that, please start thinking it now. So this should look familiar. Oh yeah, I kind of recognize this. In fact, the whole of the sixth chapter, we dealt with this sentence. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam mrittika ityeva satyam. We were breathing this in our sleep. Vacharambhanam vikaro, inhale, and namadheyam mritika ityeva satyam, exhale, and then vacharambhanam vikaro, again inhale, exhale. We were basically breathing this because it came again and again and again in many, many forms. But then, since it is here, we have to look at this. What does this mean? This means that we are looking at a world, at a whole entire projected world, which has no substance. Because the substance from which all this has as though come, we have to use the word as though many, many, many times, okay? So the substance, so to speak, the substantive from which all this this world of anritam, this world of vikara, this world of mithya has ensued. This world of dependent reality has ensued. What do we say about it? That substance, that substantive is you. It is not an object of sight. And so we are looking at a world which is not a substantive. We are looking at a world full of words and meanings, names, forms. Name and form, name and form, name and form, you can say. Nama Rupa, Nama Rupa, Nama Rupa, Nama Rupa, you can keep saying that. Or you can just say, for a change, you can say word and meaning. Hat. What happened? When I said hat, what happened? All kinds of hats started to appear in everyone's head, right? This is perhaps the first time the hat is in the head rather than on the head. So there's a hat inside the head. Big hat, small hat, top hat, baseball cap, another kind of hat that was worn in certain kind of times in the history. And then these days, the kinds of hats the British royalty wear, the English, royal family wears, full of all kinds of things. Sometimes they have fruits also, pineapples and everything there in the hat. And so all kinds of, what is this called, like Ishta Devata, your desired way of, your desired form of devotion in the form of Ishvara Bhagavan. Ishta hat came up, correct? Inside every head was an Ishta hat. What is Ishta hat? Ishta hat means the hat of your choice. That is what it is. So inside every head, as soon as I said the word hat, it arose. Vacha arabhyate. That which begins, it arose. Because before I said hat, you did not know I was going to say hat. There was no hat. You did not know I was going to say hat. For that matter, even I did not know I was going to say hat. But then the word hat was said, and then all kinds of hats arose in the head. So what? Well, this is huge because the word hat gives rise to the meaning of the word hat. Word and meaning cannot be separated from one another. This is very big. And then every word has a meaning that is commonly understood. So as soon as I said, all kinds of hats popped up. In every head there was a hat. And that hat, depending on one's likes, dislikes, and what one had seen recently, perhaps on TV or something, some memory, some desire, everything together brings up this name and form, word and meaning. Okay, but the hat in my head is a word and meaning. But what about the real hat? What real hat? So supposing if it was not in my head, but it was now on top of my head, then what? Then also it's a word. It's a word hat which has a meaning which we understand. That which attempts to cover the big head. That is what is the definition of hat. Okay? And that's what it is. That which attempts to protect, or that, and or which is a fashion statement. Sometimes it's a some kind of a trendy thing, fashion statement. It is still whether it's in your head, in the form of a possibility that you are seeing, or whether it's on top of your head, on the empirical plane. So the hat in the head, pratibhasika, the hat on top of the head, vyavaharika. Both are mithya. This is what I'm trying to say. Both are words and meanings. From the standpoint of the Shruti, these small, finer distinctions are not made. Both are mithya. Vacha arabhyate. Therefore, tasmat vacha vak alambanam vajarambhanam. Vacha arabhyate, that which begins with the word. As that's why whenever the word hat is said, the akara, the form of the hat, obligingly comes up in the head. It is recognized. So the word and meaning cannot be stripped apart because they are inextricably connected. Every word is connected to its meaning without any fail at all. And so then what happens now? Very interesting, because if this is all mithya, then I'm looking at a world that has been named. It has been named first by the indigenous peoples that populated the continents of Africa, the Americas, Asia, etc. And then they were all ousted, killed. There was genocide. And then certain, all kinds of colonizers came from Alexander, not so great, to not so great Britain, all the way. Everybody came and they saw, they came, they saw, they conquered, they came, they saw, they conquered, they came, they saw, they conquered. And then, in and through all this, what changed? Regimes toppled over, rulers changed. What did not change was everything was vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam. Everything is still based on naming. The whole world dances on my tongue. Oh, you mean to say it's tasty? No, no, no. The whole world, the tongue here is, two organs. It is rasana. It is the organ of taste. It is a jnanendriya and karmendriya. It is also an organ of action, speech. So here I'm referring to the latter. So the whole world dances on your tongue, and you have named it. You have conquered it. You have dominion over it, because everything that is inert cannot speak for itself. You have named it. You have a relationship with the world through words. Just words. Everywhere word, and each word has a meaning, which is collectively understood. Hat, mat, cat, rat, bat. Everybody understands what those are. And so, like this, the the quotation from the Chandogya Upanishad, Vadaram Bhanam Vikaraha. So he chooses this quotation because, not because he knows, we have studied this already and we'll be familiar with it, but because the word vikara comes in. Because that is what he's trying to establish here. And he says, ataha anritam. What is the definition of anritam? Ataha anritam vikaraha, he says. Vikara means that which keeps on modifying. So we look at a modifying world, always changing world, that rests on the tongue, on the tip of the tongue, in the form of a series of vikaras. Namadheyam. The dheya is swarthe. Swarthe dheya pratyaya. Dheya is a suffix which means in a name only. Name alone is there, nothing else is there. The whole world is just name and its meaning, word and its meaning. Table. What is a table? It's a word which has a meaning. You can't say, oh, that which is four-legged is a table, because that's not the definition. Even a dog is four-legged. And sometimes tables are three-legged, like a little tripod or something like that. So, but anyhow, even though we may not be able to define it precisely, still we know what it means. Table means what? Chair means what? Computer means what? This is the shared understanding, a universally shared understanding. And so the whole world dances on the tip of the tongue in the form of words. So we have converted the world into word. The L is gone. And so this is what it means, that it is all based on speech. And mrittika iti eva satyam. And why does he say mrittika iti eva satyam? Because in that sentence, in this particular quotation, if he were to cite the whole thing completely from the Chandogya, this is how it would read. Sadeva somya idamagre asit ekameva dvitiyam. Ekena mritpindena sarvam mrinmayam vijnatam bhavati. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam mrittika ityeva satyam. This is the whole quotation. Sad eva asit. Idam agre. This Jagat, before it was in a manifest form, it still was. What was it? You mean it still was? Yeah. What was it? It was Sat alone. It was Sat. Okay, that means it is not Sat now. No, it is still Sat. But it is a manifest Sat in the form of a world of words and their corresponding meanings. And before it was an unmanifest Sat, no need for word or meaning. Because that unmanifest Sat is really you, not away from that consciousness which is you. So this is what Shvetaketu is told. This is the Mahapratignya in the Chandogya Upanishad. Sadeva Somya idam agre asit. This Jagat was in the form of Sat. And what was it? Ekam, only one. Advitiyam, non-dually one. Sat is there, was there, will be there. And that now this apparent duality is just an apparent superimposition, so to speak, on that Sat that is free of duality. So the duality is on the level of words and their meanings, nothing more. This is what Shvetaketu is told. So therefore, then he says, Ekena mritpindena. Like for example, he says, just look at this. Maybe they were walking through the village and they saw some people, displaying their earthenware craft. And they saw a shop of, pots and lamps and lids and Krishna figurines and all this. I also have here enough to open our own shop. So this one, and then this one with a pointy tip, and then what else? And then one which is like a bowl. Okay, this is already adarshanam lopaha. It is becoming. I don't know. Some of them, they don't show in this background. Some of them do. So, and sometimes they do. So anyhow, so this is, these are all vak alambanam. So this is what makes this have a name called cup? Its form. Its form, we have an understanding, okay, this is called cup. Then what makes this have a name? Oil lamp. Even though there is no oil, this is called oil lamp. So the form of it we say oil lamp, word and the meaning. Even though there is no oil in it right now, still we call it oil lamp and still we understand it as oil lamp. And this is perhaps some kind of a pet dish, maybe, I don't know. And so, whatever this is, a bowl, a saucer, something like that. And so, all this, this is so ekena mritpindena. So, either we have a choice, either we do a doctorate on each of these items, the first PhD. What is this cup? What is this cup? And what is its weight? And how it looks? And how it is different from all the other cups that have been studied so far. PhD number one. And PhD number two, what is this lamp? And even though there are many PhDs on cups, there has not been a PhD on a lamp. So this is why its claim to fame is that this is the first PhD on the lamp. Then PhD number three. This is the third PhD on the dish. Then it has to justify, the PhD has to justify its existence. Why this? Why now? Well, the PhD on the cup left a few things out, and the PhD on the lamp was too specific. So to critique the other two books, you see, then you can, that's your PhD done. If you critique the other two, then you have enough to say. That's at least 200 pages. And then you just, write an introduction and a conclusion and you're done. You got your doctorate. So that's one way of studying this words and their meanings. One way of the analytical study of words and meanings. In academia, I like to call it academia. So because that's where it is leading. And then so this is one way, a very deep study and a critique and everything. The Upanishad has her own ways, and she says, ekena mritpindena. Forget all this. You don't need to do a PhD on each and everything. Just observe closely a lump of clay. Do a little show and tell. Mix it in water. See how it feels like. Oh, it's kind of fragrant, yeah. And then it's cool to touch, yeah. Yes, you're right. And it is malleable. Why? I can make my own little pot with this. Wonderful. Then what? Ekena mritpindena. Through the study, through the knowledge of one lump of clay, sarvan mrinmayam. Mrinmayam means, mayat vikare, vikararthe. So the suffix mayat is used in the form of vikara, modification. Everything is a modification of this clay. And we might add as though modification, because in and through this, the clay has inherently not undergone any change. And you take this pot and you touch this one, and it is again cool to the touch. It has the same qualities of the clay, malleable, cool to the touch. You smell it. There is no pot smell, no pun intended, okay? And there is only clay smell. There is only clay smell. And then, the touch of this pot, this lamp is the touch of clay. The weight, you weigh this, and the weight does not belong to the lamp, or what you just now called the lamp, what you call the cup, what you call the pot, and what you call the dish. The weight belongs to the clay. The color belongs to the clay. The smell belongs to the clay. That texture, that touch belongs to the clay. In fact, the whole pot is nothing but clay. Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam. Because of the various forms, they have various names, and we call them pot, lid, jar, jug, and all kinds of things. Everything, everything is just clay, 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 clay all the way. And then so the clay can be in any form. If you recognize clay, you can transcend the form. Transcend the form. And we do that, and Pujya Swamiji would point this out frequently. We do that all the time in our everyday life. And supposing somebody wants to use somebody says, touch wood, and you just touch whatever is in front of you. You don't have to go hug a tree or go to the lumber yard to go and touch wood. No, whatever it is, touch wood. Maybe it's an aluminum table, but you have transcended all that and you go to the wood. Maybe it's a table with just a small slab of wood and it's mostly got aluminum legs and aluminum bars and everything. But you've transcended all that. Touch wood. Whatever is available, touch wood. If nothing is available, touch wood. And no comment there. Okay, so this is what this is exactly what is what is trying to be conveyed here. This is exactly what is being conveyed here by the Chandogya Shruti, is that many pots, a whole world of earthenware rests on clay. And so then you can't ask, in relation to this pot, where is the clay? Is the clay on top of the pot? Is the clay underneath the pot? Is the clay inside the pot? Is the clay on top of the pot? In fact, there is no place where the clay is not. Like we say, Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. This whole world is pervaded by Ishvara. Clay Vasyam Idam Sarvam. This clay Jagat, the clay world is the pot world, the world of pots and lids, lamps, figurines, jars, jugs, all of it. The world of earthenware is nothing but clay. It's clay, 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 clay all the way. And so, what about the differences between pot number 1 and pot number 2 and pot number 3? The difference is only what we call upadhi vashat. Upadhi means the clay in a particular shape, in a particular form. That's all it is. There is no other difference really. Because of the difference, you can count. And so we can count. That's how we count. But really, there is nothing to count because it's all one and non-dually one. This is what Shvetaketu is told. So, Vacharambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam. So, this whole world is just Sat alone. Sat is the word used in that Upanishad for Brahman. Whole world is Sat. There is nothing other than Sat. You are that Sat. Tat Sat Sa Atma. Tvamasi Shvetaketu. That Sat you are. That's going to be told later. The whole world is Sat. And then Sat plus name and form. Sat plus word and meaning. The word and meaning are like the pot. They do not affect the clay at all. The pot does not affect the clay. The clay is not upset with the pot. The clay is not jealous of the pot. The pot it cannot compete with the clay. In fact, the relationship between pot and clay is a one-sided relationship because for its existence, the clay needs the pot. Sorry, the pot needs the clay, but the clay does not need the pot. And so, pot is not independent of clay. Clay is independent of pot. Similarly, all the words in the world, along with their meanings, are not independent of Brahman. And when we say, what about Brahman? Brahman is independent of all of them. And so therefore what? So therefore this is Vacharambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam Mrittika iti eva Satyam. So in this example, the clay alone is Satyam. And then, so this is why he quotes this. His quotations are always very, very apt. So this clay alone is Satyam. And so the clay here is the Drishtanta. Drishtanta means example. And so Darshtanta means that which is exemplified. Clay takes the place of Brahman. And so this Brahman, that is, we are talking about as Satyam. Satyam means that which never changes. Just like the clay in this example, even though it has undergone a change from the standpoint of form, it's really not undergone any change at all. The form is a value added plus, a mithya plus. It is not really a change at all. Where is the change? I just told you the weight of the pot is the weight of clay, the color of the pot is the color of clay. And wherever you see pot, there is clay. You recognize it as clay pot. And so there is really no change. It's an as though change. Same thing with Brahman. No change at all, but an as though change. So then he says, Evam sadeva satyam iti avadharanat. Avadharanat means, this is the ascertainment. Ataha vikaraha anritam. So any kind of modification, anything that undergoes modification is mithya, is dependent on sat, just like the pot is dependent on clay. And then evam, in this manner, sadeva satyam iti avadharana. So why do you say it is a vikara and it is anritam, it is mithya? Because sadeva satyam iti avadharanat. Because we have ascertained through this and other quotations that Sat alone is Satyam. That which we call Sat, Sat Brahma, this Brahman which is called Sat is Satyam. Oh, isn't this a redundancy here? Isn't there a redundancy? Sad alone is Satyam? No. Sad here is the name of the Vastu, and then Satyam is the ontological statement, the reality of the Vastu is called Satyam, as opposed to Mithya. So Sadeva Brahman alone is Satyam iti avadharanat. Because of this ascertainment, we can say that that which changes is vikara. Then he says, Ataha Satyam Brahma iti Brahma vikarat nivartayati. Satyam Brahma iti Brahma vikarat nivartayati. So therefore, when you say Satyam Brahma, what are the implications? The first implication, he's going to go over these implications in great detail. So vikaraha anritam, and then whatever has undergone modification is called vikara, and then what is it now? The vikara, one thing about the vikara is that, the vikara comes and goes. So, one word for the vikara, this Anandagiri, the Tikakara uses, is kadachit kaha vikaraha. Kadachit kaha means kabhi kabhi aane wala, jaane wala. That which sometimes comes and sometimes goes and it's never the same. It's always, it is the goer and it now is the eater, now the drinker, now the sleeper, now the goer keeps changing. Sometimes it's there, and then as soon as you catch hold of it, it is not there. So it is called, the Anandagiri gives it a namakarana. He says it is kadachit kaha vikaraha. And so this is so therefore the vikara is what is mithya, purely mithya. Why? It is modified. Modified from what? Modified from Brahman, of course. And of course, we have to add an as though, because there is no real modification. An as though modification from Brahman. And then so therefore what? So any change is anritam. Even the decision to change is again mithya. And so therefore this is what this is what is explained by this. It's not an ordinary quotation, a very huge quotation. And while you can count Shvetaketu is told this. You can count the pots. You can count the items. There is a very nice story. As while he says this, while he says this quotation, there is a nice story in the Chandogya 6th chapter. In the morning, there is a big lump of clay which the Kulala, the potter, has brought from the forest, has dug up the subsoil and brought it and has kneaded it and kept it in the sun. Then he goes away, and then you go away. You just pass by his house, let's say, and then you go away. You go to the next village. You do whatever you wanted to do. You come back, and then there is no clay in front of the potter's house. Where before there was a huge lump of clay, a big ball of clay, now there is no clay. What are there? There's all kinds of earthenware sitting and baking in the sun. So therefore what? Vyabhicharati. So the form is kadachit kaha. It is keeping on. It keeps changing from a given time, given place, etc. And it is namadheyam, nama matram, only nama alone, dependent on speech, dependent on all kinds of things which are dependent on thought, dependent on speech, and everything that is mithya. And so therefore, Sadeva Somya Idam Agre Asit, etc., etc. And then what? Then now, when we talk about this much, the example is assimilated. But then when we go to Dashtanta, certain very thorny situations arise. The first thorny situation is, oh, so it was glorious. Sadeva Asit. So Brahman was glorious. And now it went and created this Jagat. And it's like catching hold of a tiger's tail. It's like the brave fellow in the village said, I'm so brave, I'm not afraid of the tiger. Oh, really? Show it. Show us that you're not afraid of the tiger. And somehow he summoned up a lot of courage and caught hold of the tail of the tiger. Then the tiger got afraid and then took off. And of course, when the tiger took off, this fellow also took off behind, holding the tail, because he dare not leave the tail now, because if he leaves the tail, he's going to be the wrath of the tiger. And so, like this, there is all these problems, like why did Brahman create? And then, so if it was perfect in the beginning, Sadeva Somya Idamagre Asit, and now Jagat is born. Jagat Idanim Utpannam. And so now it is born. And then what? And then so it has descended from Brahman. The glory of Brahman was wonderful. Now the Jagat has just descended from Brahman. The only thing that is descending is the colon, okay? Nothing else is descending or ascending. All right. So these phrases, descending, ascending, detachment, detachment again is only retinal. No other detachment, because there is no attachment possible. These are best used for anatomy and physiology. There is that which doesn't have a descent. Achyutaha, no Chuti. Chutihi na vidyate yasya, the one that cannot descend, that one that cannot fall. That is the name of Bhagavan, Achyutaha. And that, that is Brahman. That which does not ascend, need not descend, that which is free from ascent and descent. But there is a whole theology like this. And there is, everything was, there are many theologies like this. And to a certain extent, we see these shades of this in the Christian theology. Why go thus far? Even in the Vaidika, whatever in the Vaidika smorgasbord, we have certain theologies which say, oh, we have descended from Brahman. Now we have to go back. We have to slowly make our way back. How are you going to do that? Well, we have to be good. And then what? Then afterwards, God's grace will, snatch us from this cycle of death and birth and death, and then we will go and stay in a place called, some Goloka Brindavan, and then there we will play, some kind of a stick dance with the Lord. This is all there, this whole descent ascent theory. And this is, it was originally Sat, and now it has become Vikara. This is not, this is not the it cannot fall like this. There is no, that's why it is talked about as Vikara is Namadheya, that which is Namarupa is Mithya. Even now, the Satyam is not away from any of the pots. Clay is not away from any of the pots. Similarly, Satyam is not away from any manifest form of Brahman. Everything is mithya. Body is mithya, mind is mithya, buddhi is mithya, the senses are mithya, and the five elements from which it was all born, subtle and gross elements, all of them are mithya, 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 mithya. Everything is mithya. Satyam alone is you. That is what it is. This is exactly like this myth darshanam, like the ascertainment of clay as the cause of the whole world of earthenware. Therefore, tattvamasi shvetaketu, and therefore that which is never away from Sat, that is mithya. It is Sat. Mithya is Sat. Sat is not Mithya. That is what we have to understand. And then therefore Bhashyakara says, Vacharambhanam vikaro namadheyam iti avadharanat. This nirdharanat. And so this nirdharanam, the ascertainment vikarasya avadharanat. Sadeva satyam iti avadharanat. So there is that emphatic underscoring that Sat alone, this Sat Brahma alone, which is Sarvasya Karanam, that is the reality, iti avadharanat. Then what do we understand? Then we say that then we understand something very interesting. We understand that if we take heed of the pot and the clay metaphor, and then we kind of overlay it on Brahman and the Jagat. So pot has come from clay, just like the Jagat has come from Brahman. So therefore what? In the pot clay example, clay is the cause of pot. And so in the Jagat Brahman example, Brahman is the cause of the Jagat. There is a causality. Causality is there, and that causality is what that so the effect is, of course, vikara. The effect is vikara. We have already seen vikaraha anritam. But what about the cause? Can the cause be a cause without becoming a vikaravan, without becoming something subject to modification? If we look at it empirically speaking, the answer, of course, is no. Why? Because the moment you think of a change, of initiating a change, you have already changed, correct? Before there was no thought. Let's say you were not thinking of anything in particular. You were just there, sitting, and then suddenly the idea came, I think I want to have some ice cream. Some idea came in the head. And so then, either you go buy it or you make it, doesn't matter. But that idea, that thought came in the head. And you, before the thought, were a different person than you after the thought. The very thought has changed you, because now you're thinking, how can I go get it? Where will the best one be? Etc., etc., etc. So therefore, this is, there is a kind of a causality here. And then so when we say that there is causality, then we are opening another Pandora's box. So let us see what he says here. So vikarat nivartayati. So first we'll look at this sentence. Vikarat nivartayati means all kinds of vikaras are not there for Brahman. It doesn't have name, it doesn't have form, it doesn't even have words that describe it, it doesn't have anything. It is undergoes no change whatsoever. It is not subject to action, it is not subject to time, it is not subject to space, it is not an object. And so what is it? It is just Sat. It is all that is there is Sat. And then so therefore this is what it has to be, the vikarat nivartayati. And that which is Satyam is not a vikara. Satyam Brahma. Satya Shabdena, by the Sat Shabda. What does it do? That Sat Shabda, borrowed from the Chandogya Upanishad, removes all kinds of vikaras, the possibility of modification for Brahman. And then it releases Brahman from what? Nivartayati. From all kinds of changes, all kinds of things. And then what? Then it is, but at the same time, it has this thing. So, Sarvasya Karanam Brahma. And so, therefore, what? Let us read further. Ataha
अतः
Karanatvam Praptam Brahmanaha
कारणत्वं प्राप्तं ब्रह्मणः
Karanasya Cha
कारणस्य च
Karakatvam
कारकत्वं
Vastutvat
वस्तुत्वात्
Mridvat
मृद्वत्
अचिद्रूपता च प्राप्ता
अचिद्रूपता च प्राप्ता
अतः
अतः
इदमुच्यते
इदमुच्यते
ज्ञानं ब्रह्म इति
ज्ञानं ब्रह्म इति
ज्ञानं ज्ञप्तिः
ज्ञानं ज्ञप्तिः
अवबोधः
अवबोधः
भावसाधनः
भावसाधनः
ज्ञानशब्दः
ज्ञानशब्दः
न तु ज्ञानकर्तृ.
न तु ज्ञानकर्तृ.
Yeah, so atah he comes to the same conclusion. Karanatvam praptah. Karanatvam praptam. Karanatvam praptam. For who? Brahmana. For Brahman now, a causality has been gained. Causality has been gained for Brahman. Brahman has become, Brahman is now called cause. Cause of what? Of course, everything. The whole Jagat, the cause of the whole Jagat. And so this the cause of the whole Jagat is there. And that is what, Satyam means Karanam. And then there the Karanatvam Brahmana, Karanatvam Praptam. How? Satya Visheshena. Satya Lakshanena. So by this word Satya, which is adjectival in nature, but Lakshana in function, for this Brahman, this Vikaratvam has been gained. Now, this is very interesting. Satyam doesn't undergo any change. So therefore it is not Karya. Therefore what can it be? It is Karanam, because the whole Jagat is relying on this Satyam, on this Sadvastu. So because the whole world is Vak Arambhanam, and then the whole world is without substance. The substance is Brahman. So Brahman has now an imputed Karanatvam. And Karya is Vikara, we saw. The Karya is subject to Vikara. Karya means effect. Effect is subject to changes and modifications. It is Mithya. And therefore, Brahman is Satyam. So therefore, Brahmanaha Karanatvam Praptam. And before you give it a standing ovation and say, oh, yippee, now Sarvasya Karanam Brahma, wonderful. Before that, we have to look at all the problems this sentence brings. Brahmanaha karanatvam praptam. There are two problems. There are many, but two main problems. The first problem is it engenders some questions. Karanatvam praptam, okay, it is now has a causality. Now, it is the cause of the Jagat means what kind of a cause is it? When we look at the Jagat, we see that it too, like everything in the universe, has a twofold cause. What is the first cause? The material. The material of which mountains, trees, water, birds, all animal forms, etc., are made. So that is one kind of cause, the material cause. And that in Sanskritam is called Upadana Karanam. So we have Upadana Karanam, correct? So if Brahma is Upadana Karanam, that is the question. Or is it the Karta, like in the sense of an intelligent cause, it's called an intelligent cause, or the material cause? You decide now which cause is it. You say Brahmanaha Karanatvam Praptam, okay, I'll go along with you, but what kind of a cause is it? And this question is laden, and the person is waiting for you because there are two traps here, two sand pits, and then you don't know, and you just fall into one or the other. So if you say Brahman is the intelligent cause, in fact Brahman is nothing but intelligence, all knowledge, and so Brahman is the intelligent cause. Intelligent cause means the one who planned it all. Like if we take the pot example, you know what we have? We have the material cause. What is the material cause? Clay. And then what is the intelligent cause? Sometimes also called efficient cause. I don't use the word because I don't find it very efficient in terms of communicating what it means. So, intelligent cause. So, intelligent cause, who is the intelligence cause? The potter. The potter is the intelligent cause. The potter, looks at the lump of clay in the hand, and the potter mashes it and molds it and throws it on the wheel, and already has a plan. How to execute. Should it be a jar? Should it be a wide-mouthed dish? Should it be a cup? Should it be a pot? He or she has already planned it out and throws it on the wheel and shapes it accordingly, and you keep seeing how it comes out. It looks very miraculous and deceptively easy. If you try to do that, the pot will look like, I don't know, there won't be much difference between the pot and the lump of clay from which it came. Okay, it will be that is one way of instant Advaita. Okay, and then you can say, you can be a Vedantin and say the cause inheres the effect, and because this also looks like a lump. So if you do it, you don't have that intelligence, you don't have that planning. Same thing when an architecture plans the house. Here the door should be, and here the windows should be. You can't build a structure and then say, yo, I forgot to put a door. How will I enter? That just cannot happen. So there is a lot of planning involved, and there is a lot of execution involved, and so then there is a lot of materials also involved. Whether you're building a mansion, or whether you're building a small house, or whether you're simply making something out of clay. So that is the intelligent cause. The potter, the architect, etc. The material cause for building a house would be, wood and steel and whatever else is needed. Cement, wood, steel, all the building materials. And the materials for this, pot, etc., again clay. So that is called the raw material. So now, if you are calling Brahman a karta, then if you're saying karanatvam praptam brahmanah, so Brahman is Sat, Brahman is free of vikara, yet has something called karanatvam. has Karanatvam. What is this Karanatvam? Causality. And so which cause are you talking about? Are you saying Brahman is the intelligent cause? Yes. I'm saying Brahman is the intelligent cause. Okay, you are in the first pit. You are caught. Why? Why am I caught? Because now Brahman has become Karta. And so what? If Brahman is Karta, so what? That is the first pitfall. If Brahman becomes Karta, then, then what happens? Brahman creates the Jagat. Brahman becomes Karta. And Karta is what? Karaka. It's a factor in action. So Prathama Karaka, Karta. This is the Kartri Karaka, means the maker. And then maker means what do you get out of that? Then once it is the Karaka, then in order to be the Karta, Brahman has to have undergone some change. There must be some change on part of Brahman in order to become a creator. And therefore what? Brahma becomes Vikaravat Vastu. It is Brahma is Vikaravat. It also has to undergo a change. There must be some change because even the Sankalpa to be a Karta means there's already is a change. Sankalpa means intentionality. So before there was no Sankalpa, now there is Sankalpa. So even on the level of Sankalpa, the Sankalpavat Brahma is Vikaravat Brahma, that is the Vikriya. And so therefore Brahma becomes Jagat Kartri, Vikaravat. And then this Kartritvam is there. So then only Vikaratve Sati, then only you can become a doer, only when you are subject to modification. So, because it is the doer of the Jagat, the maker of the Jagat, then it should have undergone any change. So then this is the first problem. Nimitta karanatve sati, then brahmanaha, then karakatvam praptam. Karakatvam praptam means there are various kinds of relationship. When the Jagat becomes karma, Jagat becomes what the Karta has produced. And then how did he or she produce? What tools did she use? Karana. That Karaka also comes the instrumental case. For what did Bhagavan create? For whose purpose? Was it for me, the Jiva, Sampradana? The fourth case walks in. From where did this Jagat was created? Apadana Karaka. Sambandha. What is the relationship between Bhagavan and the Jagat? Is Bhagavan the daddy or the mummy? Usually people will say it's the daddy, father of the universe. And only in our tradition we say father and mother. We don't have a problem with that. So therefore all these questions come. So Brahman is coming along with a huge whole group of the factors of action. So much for actionlessness. It is not actionless at all. So many factors of action have already come. What is the instrument of doing? How is this doing being done? And then whose sake it is for? And where from this doing is, what is the source of this action of doing? And then what is the relationship of Brahman to other nouns that are there? Tree, house, etc., whatever is there in the Jagat. All this, and is, and also final one, is the Jagat located in Brahman? This is another one, Adhikarana, Saptami. So all the factors of action walk in, and then when even the first Karaka, the nominative case, as Brahman is the doer of the Jagat, is the maker of the Jagat, the creator of the Jagat, even if you say that, then already you are in trouble. You are in hot water because Brahman becomes changeable and not Satyam anymore. Okay. I want to change my answer. It is the material cause. It is not the intelligent cause. Let us say it's the material cause. Okay, material cause means what? It is the material. And have you seen how the person who does anything deals with the material? The Kulala, the Kumbhakara, see the potter, what does he do? He or she, they will wear these big boots and they will stomp on the clay. They will stomp on the clay, which led Saint Kabir to observe that and compose a couplet. माटी कहे कुम्हार से तू क्या रोंधे मोए. The clay started to talk. The mud started to talk and said, "What is this? You are feeling so good on stomping. The more you stomp on the clay, you're mixing it. You're letting the air in, and it becomes lighter. It's just like baking a cake. Same thing. You have to make it all very porous. And so that's what they used to do in olden days. The whole family would go trampling in the clay to make it very soft, malleable, and do that. So the clay here talks, and the clay asks, what is this? You are keeping on. You are keeping on trying to, stomping on me. You are keeping on terrorizing me with your feet. Doesn't matter. Have fun. It's your day today. एक दिन ऐसा आएगा. One day will come. Who rondungi toy. One day will come when I am going to do the same to your body after you die. After you die, you will be put 6 feet under. And then I will also, I will also have an active part in decomposing this very body that is stomping on me. So like this. So if you say, and so this is the supposedly the efficient, or sorry, the material cause, the so-called material cause means that the person who is the karta is wielding the matter in a certain way and then bringing out certain things. If you look at the seamstress, the fabric is cut, pasted, and sewn, patchwork, pin tucks, smocking, embroidery, so many changes have gone, and that poor fabric. And then to make sure it doesn't shrink, it is put in hot water and then ironed and then dried and ironed, and then it is stitched, and then it is sent over to the market. And then it is inspected and sent over. And so what? So if it is the material cause, like the clay for the pot maker, or like the fabric for the seamstress, then what? Then if Brahman is Upadana Karanam, then what happens? Then Brahman just is reduced to the substance. What is the substance? Jadam. Brahma becomes Jadam. Jadam means inert. Yeah, I agree with this. Brahman should be inert. Why should not Brahman be inert? If Brahman was inert, if somebody says this, you can just tell them, if Brahman was really inert, you would not be able to talk. How are you talking? You are talking, you are interacting because Brahman is not inert. So then if Brahman is the material cause, it suffers from inertness, insentiency. If Brahman is the intelligent cause, it becomes vikaravat vastu. It suffers from constantly being changing and becomes a samsari, just like a person who is planning some kind of a thing. I want to plan this for my family. This is the program. We are all going to get up early tomorrow, and then we are all going to go to the temple. I'll drag all of you. If you're not ready, you have to come. So like this, the Brahman has so much pressures, and so much pressures that one has to. Bhagavan doesn't know where to go, and that is what as children, sometimes when you go to the Srinivasa temples, Lord Srinivasa temples, there is a big, what is that, camphor patch the Lord wears. This comes from an old, some kind of a ancient Puranic story where the Lord was, hiding and drinking milk somewhere behind the bushes or inside an ant hill. Not to be confused with the Ramayana story, but similar. And then a woodcutter came and just accidentally, just put an axe there, thinking, what is inside? Why is the cow milking itself here? And then the Lord got a whack on the head, and then, has this big camphor patch. That is the story. And so then, when I was young, when I used to go to the Balaji temples, I would just say, okay, we are going to see the headache God. And so if God also started to have a headache, then what will happen to all of us? God also has migraine, means there is no hope at all for anybody else. And so this is, so this is the first problem. If Brahman is nimitta karanam, intelligent cause. If Brahman is intelligent cause, then Brahman becomes samsari, karta, full of stress, and no different than any other jiva. All right, let Brahman be the upadana karanam. Let Brahman be the material cause. Well, if Brahman is the material cause, then just like any other material, jadatvam, prapam. So, jadatvam means inertness. Insentient. Brahman becomes insentient, and this is what is very cleverly pointed in the Bhashya. So much words we had to use, but for him it was two small sentences. Ataha karanatvam praptam brahmanah, that we saw. Karanasya cha karakatvam vastutvat. So here he doesn't break down into nimitta and upadana karana, but it is clear he is hinting at it because he talks about the two problems that ensue. We have got ourselves into a very interesting soup. The first soup is the soup of thinking that Brahman is literally Jagat Karta, the creator of the Jagat. So then karanasya cha, and here we have to add, before karanasya we should say nimitta karanasya cha karakatvam. Karakatvam praptam brahmanah. Karakatvam means becoming a samsari. I have this, I do this, I'm connected to this, and these are the tools I use to do this, and these are the changes I have undergone to do this, etc., etc., etc. So then, so this is nimitta karanatve sati karakatvam praptam. And what is the hetu? Vastutvat. Vastutvat is the hetu, is the cause. The cause is because the being a substance, it is, it means it is the being a substance, it is subject to more changes. So vastutvat, karakatvam praptam. Why? Vastutvat, it has become one more thing in the whole universe. And then what? Upadana karanatve sati. If we take it on the other hand as upadana karanam brahmanah praptam, if we say that Brahman is endowed with being the material cause, then mridvat, like even the clay which is the material for the earthenware world, achidrupata cha prapta. Mrit being feminine, so this is all feminine. Achidrupata, and rupata is feminine, so achidrupata cha prapta. Achidrupata is feminine, so therefore prapta. So chidrupata means sentient nature. Achidrupata, insentient nature, cha prapta. That is the conclusion. That is what we have gained from this analysis of, endowing Brahman with karanatvam, with causality. Endowing Brahman with causality means there are twofold problems depending on what kind of causality you see. And then what do you see? One, you could see that it is, you could say that it is an intelligent cause. It's because it is all knowledge, it's an intelligent cause. And if it's an intelligent cause, then it brings in a whole lot of other factors of action. It becomes vikaravan vastu, it becomes, vikaravat vastu, it undergoes change. And so whatever undergoes change is mithya, so then Brahman becomes mithya. All right, it's the, what is that? It is the other cause, the cause which is the material. Then it becomes inert. Like even the clay, it is acted upon. Then we have to search for some other Brahman who is acting on this Brahman. Then we get into a happy little infinite regress. But that doesn't happen. Why? Ataha idam uchyate. Therefore, this is said. What is said? Jnanam Brahma iti. Thank God. To avoid both these problems, Jnanam Brahma iti idam ataha idam uchyate. Now, to avoid the problems, the pitfalls of seeing Brahman as changeable, as a changeable, modified vastu, as a vastu that is subject to modification, or seeing Brahman as being acted upon by other actors because of its inert nature. To avoid these two problems, the word jnanam comes to the rescue. Because satyam here is not, the definition is not enough. It is enough if one is totally prepared, even one word is enough. But, technically speaking, it could lead, just the word satyam could lead one down these rabbit holes that we just discussed. So therefore, jnanam brahma. The word jnanam is very interesting. Jna is the dhatu, and then along with that we have a suffix called lyut. And then this lyut, the la goes away, the ta goes away, all it is you. You is the suffix. And then by another sutra, the you is converted into ana. Yuor anakau. So ana. Jna plus ana. Jnanam. So then that is the first thing about this. So it makes it into a kind of a, what should I say, a indiscriminate noun, a general noun. And this lyut is a very flexible noun, kind of a noun usage, because jnanam could mean the jnana kartru, the one that is the author of whatever that anam is qualifying, the author of knowledge here, knower. That same lyut, jnanam, object of knowledge. And then that same lyut can also be used in the third case sense of karana, jnana karanam, like eyes, ears, etc. Means of knowledge, also jnanam. Now, which one should it be here? And if I choose one, will it lead down to even more rabbit holes, etc., etc.? You wait and see. There are so many nanus sitting, and they will all come out of our ears. When? Next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.